to you tighter than I should. Many days I've worried you away. Even though you're here, to know how to let
Well, good afternoon. What an amazing day. So this morning we've been with Leo Davey, artist at his Minehead studio, and this afternoon we're in the incredibly peaceful, calming and tranquil surroundings of East Quay in Watchet. And this afternoon we are with Georgie Grant, who is the co-director of the Onion Collective here at East Quay. Hello there, Georgie.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
No, it's absolutely brilliant. Thanks for accommodating us in this amazing pod, but more on that later. And hello there, Lucy.
Hello.
You all awake now after our coffee?
Yes, we've had a lot of caffeine today.
Yeah, an awful lot of caffeine, and it's really great coffee here at East Quay. So a plug.
I'll plug the tea was good as well.
Okay.
But not for me.
No,
Cake today.
no.
Another day.
Yeah, I might just have cake after we finish. So, if I'm really good.
It looked delicious.
And just a sort of a point of order for our listeners, because many hundreds of people will be listening to this podcast. You may be able to hear in the background some choral singing, and that is courtesy of an immersive installation here at East Quay. Tell us a little bit about that, Georgie.
Yes, so this is called Lusitano Remixed, and it's brought to East Quay thanks to Dunster Festival and Benjamin Tassi. I've just found out actually that Lusitano was a composer, one of the first black composers to be published in the 1500s, and he's just beginning to have a bit of a revival. So this installation is in Studio 10, and it has speakers all around the room. So either you can stand in the middle of the room and hear the choral singing, or you can stand next to one speaker at a time and hear each individual voice, and it's very moving.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
It's lovely.
And you've heard this type of thing before, haven't you?
Well, I like this kind of music, as you know. So I have walked around and stood in front of the different speakers, like you were saying, and it's lovely because you can hear. I mean, it sounds silly, but when you watch them or you listen to it on a recording, you can't tell which voice is coming from which singer. You try. Sometimes I try and figure it out. Here, you can just stand and hear that sound. And then you can stand in the middle and hear where the layer is, and it's lovely to hear. So we love it. We've just been having a chat, and we can hear it in the background. And maybe we'll wave the microphone as we leave.
Yeah.
People can hear it, but it's definitely worth coming and experiencing, isn't it?
And you don't need to know anything about classical music. You can just feel it. It goes through your whole body.
It does, especially when you stand in the middle. You do feel it kind of, but it's a lovely feeling. It's quite like you say, it's calming.
It's incredibly calming, and just having in the background here, for me as someone who's always quite high adrenaline, it's actually quite lovely to be really calm entering this podcast. So if anyone notices any silences and me not waffling as usual, I'll have fallen asleep. So Lucy, nudge me.
I will. I'll nudge you.
And of course, for the tech heads out there, and I know that there's a load of people out there like me, it's almost like the old quadraphonic experience of having lots of different channels of audio around a room. And it really, it does something when you walk into it. It's very different from just having a stereo experience. It is truly immersive. So, definitely well worth a visit to Studio 10 here at East Quay.
How long is it on for?
Good question. It's on, I think, for about 3 weeks. Let me just check. So
it's sort of timed around the Dunster Festival, isn't it? Which is at the end of May in Dunster Village. It's on the second Maybank Hall.
So it's just started. It finishes on the 12th of June.
Okay, so there's time for people to come and hear it.
Yeah, so just before my birthday, just in case any listeners want to know when it's my birthday, I'll put those details in the meta description.
You do that. We'll get loads of mail.
Yeah, that's right, loads of cards and gifts, hopefully. So, Georgie, this project here is something that's relatively close to my heart. I've seen this grow over the last 5 years or so since I've been back in West Somerset and Exmoor, and architectural style and the way that it occupies this space and Watchet Harbourside is, I think, immense. I think it's just wonderful. So I suppose we've got to start by asking the question, where did it all start, and what's your involvement in all of this?
Well, it's becoming infamous now that it all started in a pub. in a pub, sorry, with cider.
All good things start in
They
pubs.
do.
I think they do actually, because that's when you have the exciting conversations. And we just over and over and over, we're like, oh, why doesn't this happen, and why doesn't that happen, and we should do this. And then after we just got bored of ourselves. We were like, should we do it? So we formed Onion Collective back in the end of 2012.
Right.
Actually,
Why is it called Onion Collective?
well, we're a kind of a development trust, but we didn't want to be called because it's boring.
It
right?
is boring, yeah.
So we thought we wanted to be something rural that's got lots of layers because we all have different skills and that comes together.
Yeah.
And the collective thing we all love because it's got that kind of slightly socialist undertones of togetherness and non-hierarchical. And the onion just seemed a really beautiful metaphor for collectivity, really.
Yeah. Okay.
And so this germ of an idea, this seed of an idea germinated over quite a long period of time, because you've been in Watch It 20 years, was it? You said so. Was this over a cider in Pebbles Tavern or somewhere like that?
Yeah, I think it was alongside an Elvis impersonator at the Esplanade Club. But yes, it's been brewing. So when I moved to Watch It, I didn't know anyone. I'm one of the down from London types, and got a job for the Quantock Hills AONB service. And it wasn't till I had my first daughter, Evie, that I started to meet friends through antenatal classes and all of that. And then, you know what mums are like, we got talking and then got invited to the pub, and then there was the cider, and then the ideas. So I think we can probably put East Quay down to birth of our children.
Oh, yeah.
Birth and cider.
Birth and cider.
Yeah. Onions. That's quite good things, actually.
Yeah, indeed. And so from those early discussions, some of our listeners and frequent guests may remember this part of the harbour being relatively desolate, not very much going on, a bit of a boatyard and car parks and sort of 50s buildings and whatever. And then, out of nowhere, came a couple of containers. I remember being here one weekend and seeing these containers with the most amazing exhibition. And I thought, well, that's not very Watch It. That's not very Somerset. That's not very Exmoor. Is that how it started then, with just a couple of containers?
Yeah, absolutely. So those 3 containers were called Contains Art, and that really was the seed of East Quay. It's how it all began. And Contains Art came along because of a study into the arts sector in West Somerset and what artists wanted and what they needed. And they all said they wanted somewhere to be together. They wanted a kind of community, and they wanted studios, and they wanted a gallery. But the gallery to be exciting and be about ideas and debate and contemporary art, as well as showcasing their own work. And it was just so successful. And I think one of the most successful things about Contains Art was the fact that these 3 containers kind of accidentally formed a courtyard. And in the courtyard we ran loads of kids' workshops, and we called them container conversations. So we had lots of talks and events. And it was kind of really understood that that's where it all happened, actually, in the container. So when the design started for East Quay, that was one of the most important things, that we needed this courtyard to stay and to feel as if it was, the kind of open arms of all the activity could happen right in the middle.
I seem to remember around that time, and as I say, I'd not been to Watch It at that time for maybe 10 years, and walking around the streets, and there was a little art gallery which was set behind Swain Street in like a garage.
Mayfly Studio.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then further up Swain Street, there was opposite the antique shop. There was a particular gallery there.
Linda Cotton Gallery.
Yeah, Linda Cotton. Which had I think it was a Hans Price or something exhibition there, and it was just amazing. And I really thought, my God, I've struck gold. This place is where we should be living. It was that first thought, because it felt almost like the art community had arrived in this part of the world. You didn't have to go to Edinburgh or Manchester to Larry or to Towner in Eastbourne or down to St Ives to feel that you were involved or being part of an artistic community. Is there a community of artists and creatives here in Watch It in Somerset? Is this the embodiment of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of surprisingly not that small. So, so I think lots and lots of artists have sheds in the bottom of their garden and kind of want to feel part of something together. So really Contains Art, going back to Contains Art, that all started as well with Creatives Club on a Thursday in the pub, because that's where all good things happen. But it's this idea that over a pint you can share ideas and have debates and share contacts and talk about all the things that you don't have that somebody else might have that you can borrow. And that sense of community is just so strong and so important, and really what East Quay's built on.
And so from those conversations and from the arrival of the containers and the success of the chats, the conversations around those containers, how did this get built then?
Because this cost a lot of money, didn't
This
it?
cost 7.3 million.
Oh,
Wow.
really?
Okay.
Yeah. So it started, so back in 2000 and, well, I guess we did the hard work in 2013. So it was this idea of understanding what the problems of the place were, and then for making an argument for it. So what we knew that we needed to do was talk to local people and ask local people, but that's also expensive. So we applied to an organisation called the Social Investment Business, who took a punt, trusted in us, gave us some money, and then we could start. And then we ran hundreds and hundreds of conversations, kind of workshops, comment cards, YouTube videos, school fetes. I mean, you name it. We tried any way we could to ask people a kind of one core question, which is, what does Watchet need for a stronger future? And the answers that came back thick and fast were for jobs and for more tourists to the area and to make the most of what we've got here. And also there was a really strong sense of people wanting buzz and activity and vibrancy and that sense that things are happening here. So that's what East Quay tries to embody. So we did these consultations over about 4 months, and then the money allowed us to get architectural plans as well. And we employed Invisible Studio to create plans for us. And we had a big public meeting with the first set of plans in October of that year, and it was in the Methodist Church. And it was totally different scheme to what we've got now, because we laid out all of these ideas and had a big tower with people who could walk around the tower, and everyone's like, maybe
Too
not.
much, too far.
And then there were all sorts of other things that people said, like the road's in the wrong place, and why isn't there a landscape architect on board? And actually, I mean, the brilliant thing about consultations and when you do it right is that people have really good ideas.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of clever people.
There's a lot of clever people who've
All
been
over
here
the
years and
place.
years.
Yeah,
Exactly.
you find that a lot down here. People
Yeah.
come to retire, don't they?
Yeah.
Then you discover they ran Land Rover or something. And,
Yeah.
and it's amazing.
Yeah.
They're just working at the West Somerset Railway as a volunteer.
Exactly. So we lucked out in being able to tap into that kind of experience and knowledge and know-how. And so that all formed a second iteration of the scheme. That took another year or so to put together. And then again, so I think that this scheme changed 3 times until we have what we have now, thanks in the main part to everybody's local knowledge actually, and coming along and being part of the discussion.
So people really feel part of this, don't they, who live here? They feel that they were part of the consultation, they were listened to.
Yeah.
Because did you ever feel, oh my God, it's too much, we're pushing water uphill here?
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, there was a lot of cider was drunk.
A lot of cider,
Yeah.
a lot of tears.
Yeah.
And even though a lot, when I think community is a bit of a misnomer because it's not really one thing and it's not a static thing. It's lots and lots and lots and lots of different friendship circles and some of them overlap. So we were able to reach lots of people who came to the meetings, but that's by no means everyone.
Yeah, because those are just the ones that show up.
They're the ones that show up,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think the mistake that we might have made is that we stopped doing these conversations once we got planning.
Yeah.
And that was in 2018.
Yeah.
We opened last year, so we should have just carried on.
Yeah.
So there's a gap, and people leave, and people arrive, and then people are like, "What the hell's going on?" So I think if we did anything like this again, what we've learned is that actually community conversations
It's
all
a
the way through
continuous
is so
thing.
important.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? So if anyone's listening who's doing something like this, because you're absolutely right, as in on a much smaller scale, you know, I've employed an architect and got planning permission, and you get to that point, which is quite hard anyway, isn't it, when you've got the permission?
Yeah.
And you do then just get into making it happen. So you're now on another plane, you're somewhere else, your mind is all about how is this going in and how's that going to stand up and can I afford this? Or so I can see why you stop talking to people, because you have to keep going forward, don't
Yeah,
you?
it was
You have
really
to
full
forge
on,
ahead.
and so many things went wrong.
Yeah, of course.
So I don't know whether you know, but a few weeks before we started the build, there was a massive hole in the seawall. There was a
Yes.
storm and the seawall breached, and it was a huge hole, and it was
Right.
devastating. And for a few weeks we thought it was game over.
Yeah.
And thank God, luckily, the engineers came and did all their calculations, and we were okay. But that was one scary thing. And then, of course, Brexit actually had a huge impact on us, because suddenly you couldn't get the materials that you wanted, and we were having windows stuck in Portugal or a staircase stuck in this country.
Yeah.
And then the pandemic hit.
Yes.
So I would recommend never doing a building.
During a pandemic?
Yeah.
Yeah, or during a time
Or-
of fiscal change.
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Oh,
It's
absolutely.
an industrial revolution what we've lived through.
Absolutely.
I think. You know,
Yeah.
I think it is as major as that, isn't it? We don't talk about it in those terms, but to me, that's what I feel like we're going through.
I think you're completely right.
Is-
Everything's changing.
Everything has changed, and it's changing, and it's
So
constant.
difficult.
But that underlines Watch It, because Watch It, of course, is a town of enormous change. You know, whether or not it was history with the mineral line, or the more recent history with the paperworks and the closure of the paperworks. You know, Watch It has been a town of immense change, and as someone who, you know, harks from Birmingham, a city of almost immense change every 20 years because of changing economic and industrial revolutions, and now heading into Industry 4.0, you know, this new world that we're entering into. This feels that it is quite a poster boy, if you like, you know, the poster child of Watch It of the future.
It's about, it's a sort of evolutionary place. I was just thinking, because also, you know, it's got this very deep harbour, hasn't it? It's the second deepest harbour in the world, is that right?
It's the second biggest tidal range
That's
in
right.
the world.
So
yeah.
it had the shipping from Bristol, didn't it, in Elizabethan area. So even then, when shipping started to decline, this is a town that has survived these massive changes that are global.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the pandemic was a global issue, wasn't it? And you are building this. So did that add to the 7.3 million? Was that part of the reason why it was? Because where did all this money come from? It didn't come from the townsfolk of Watch It.
No,
did
well,
it
it came. So 5 million of it came from central government.
Yeah.
So a pot called the Coastal Communities Fund,
Yeah.
and that's all about regeneration. It's
Yeah.
about coastal towns and trying to find a way forward. And I think we're one of the only towns that got funded as a community rather than the council funded. Normally, the council are funded to do this kind of thing, whereas this is a very much a community focused. Build.
That's a massive achievement. You should be really proud of it.
Yeah,
Because it's amazing, isn't it? You know, it's hard to explain, but for West Somerset, this is a huge achievement, I think.
It's enormous. It's enormous, and I think one of the things that our guests should realise and our listeners should realise is that this is a permanent thing. It's not though it was like the Banksy exhibition in Weston, just up the coast, which arrived for a year or a summer and then went, and Sea Monster, you know, is going to be a big installation in Weston-super-Mare this year, but that'll be there for a short period of time. This is something that our guests and our listeners will be able to visit now and get involved with the exhibitions, have something to eat, and just generally enjoy it. But it will change over time. You know, there's different exhibitions
But
all
they
the
just
time.
keep coming back.
Yeah, and that's something that's great about this project, that it feels permanent, that it feels that it's here for good. Does it evolve? Does, as a project, I mean, I'll let you describe the architecture of the place, but is this the finished product? Or is...
Well, good question actually, because I think part of the design of the architecture is that you get a bit of both. So the ground floor is this this kind of courtyard, open arms, of solid pink concrete. So the pink is from the local red sandstone, and actually it's a serendipitous thing because we didn't really know it was going to be pink. It's just that's what the local sandstone is. But what that means is that it's lovely and warm. It's got this kind of soft pink hue, which is just lovely. And then the first floor and then the pods above it are made of this kind of corrugated metal material, which is much more transitory. So you get the kind of almost church-like feel, I think. I mean, it's just a personal view of the solidity of the concrete, which feels timeless. That's going to be here forever. And then on the first and second floors, it feels as if in 20 years these pods could change and adapt into whatever else they need to be. So you get that kind of sense of timelessness and change, which I really like, because I think that's true to what life is really like. You need both, really.
Yes, you do.
Yeah. And it is a landmark building, and it's quite interesting because for me, when I first saw this, I thought, it could quite easily be another modern housing development that you'd see in Portishead or you'd see in Weston or wherever, but it's so much more than that, isn't it? It's quite obviously a community art space, and it's so much more valuable than just sticking a few
also
apartments.
Jobs as well.
Yeah.
How many people work here now?
So at the moment there's 20. We're aiming for 37.
See, that is a lot of jobs in a town this size, isn't it?
It's really valuable.
It's a significant employer.
And the idea is that the jobs are interesting. So even when someone comes and they work in the restaurant, they've got the opportunity to also work do the kids' workshops and work in the shop and kind of move around. So what we want to try and give people is interesting jobs that they enjoy and that they feel purpose and part of the whole ethos of this community. So I think that's a really important point. But I think the other thing about the architecture is that we gave the architects quite a difficult brief because we wanted it to be fun and playful, but also of this town, of this place. And the fact that the inside space needed to be as important as the outside space. So we want people to try and make it as, do you know what I mean if I say democratic?
Yes.
Like people can own it as much as they want and they can be part of it. So the idea is that you can come and explore, and that sense of exploration and curiosity is part of the playfulness of it. Like, ooh, what's around here? And there's a bridge over there and there's a terrace up there and another courtyard over there. So, there is a risk of getting lost. I think we need to sort out our signage a little bit, but I kind of like that sense of you can come and just explore it and feel like you're welcome to look around the corner and see what's next. I
agree. For me, that was one of the things that myself and Peter picked up on straight away, that it felt welcoming.
Oh, good.
That actually that thing about it being accessible is so important because, and I won't mention a few of the larger galleries, but it feels like I can't go in there because I don't know enough about the subject.
Yeah, I think that's true. You don't, and that's the democracy of art, isn't it? You don't want to feel like I don't know anything about art, so I can't go in here. And I think that can put people off. Kids don't get that because they just come in and run around and jump up and down on things and draw on things. But I like the courtyard. I think that does really work. It does feel like the hands, I think that's a really clever idea. And also you're at the mouth here of the harbour, aren't you? So you almost feel like that can be quite a harsh area. You've got the waves coming in, or you're not actually in the harbour, but you know what I mean. And it's deep, and then you come in here and you're like, you feel sort of closeted and a bit safe from that, because I'm not a big watery person like you, or I don't particularly like water. So I come in here and I'm like, land, safe, and it's also got like I would say almost a microclimate. It's not windy down there, it is over there, so I can see the Ukrainian flag. And we did have that where we walked up here and then we looked around and went, can we go around there? It's quite like that, that it's sort of corridors and, you feel like you are exploring.
Yeah, well, and there was quite a difficult balance in that. So the containers are a little bit controversial.
Yeah,
a lot
can
of
imagine.
People
hate them.
You've just built this new building and you've put 2 containers in the courtyard.
Why?
Yeah. But really it was to provide a windbreak. Because it can get very windy around here. And we needed some way to make it sheltered. But also it means that we can provide really cheap artist studio space with the containers, and we get to kind of say, you know, this is how it started.
Yes.
So it's not to everybody's taste, but it has its
But that's
uses.
always the problem when you build anything new, isn't it? If everybody liked it, it would be pretty bland, and it wouldn't make a statement. And
That is true.
I think this is what we were saying earlier. It's good if people don't like things. In a way, they come and talk about it, and they think why they don't like it, and then they go away and do something they do like, or they change it.
Yeah.
But you can't not be impressed by it, by the achievement. I mean, David and I have worked together on committees and doing voluntary things, and it is so hard to get anything to happen. There's a lot of arguing, coercion, you know, gentle persuasion, you know, it's hard, isn't it? So just the achievement of doing it in the time, I think it's amazing, really
thank
amazing. And for this area,
Yeah.
which is quite conservative with a lowercase c.
Yeah.
You know, and I can see
Definitely is.
people don't like the containers, I get that, but they've been here a long time, and I think they're
Yeah.
important. They say, and also this is a shipping area. We should have containers. You know, I'm not offended by those.
And I think probably what we were talking about earlier about the sea and change, like that's part of what's enabled us to do this, because
Yeah.
there was quite a lot of fear and people are not quite sure what we're doing. But because it's a town of change and because people want to have a really prosperous future,
Yeah.
people have been willing to come with
Yeah.
us on the journey, which
Yeah.
is a kind of great leap of faith, really.
Yeah, you know, there was one thing that really resonated with me here, and that's that you could stand on this balcony, and then you had the Victorian Railway chuffing its way just
Yeah.
I love that, yeah.
and I think even for Peter, who is quite, and he'll be listening to this, so you know he's quite a matter of fact, black and white type person. I think even that
The
really,
romance of the
yeah.
steam railway.
Yeah, just this amazing concrete structure, and then you've got
Yeah.
this steam train
Old
chuffing.
and new,
Yeah.
perfectly
Lovely.
together.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. There's so much thought that's gone into this, and I'm sure none of it is accidental. But you know, it just works. It just works.
Well, no, one of the things that I'm sure the architects meant, but I didn't realise until it was built, is that this balustrade here, which we call the streets, on the first floor, you've got this kind of street that goes along the artist studios, and you can see. But if you follow the eye line of the balustrade, it perfectly follows the line of the harbour and the marina, and then back along the esplanade to make this whole. Like, did you? Wow!
And they were going, oh, yes, we
Yeah.
did. Yeah, we did.
That
Yeah,
That was £1 million.
yeah. Ching, ching. And that's our...
God.
So there is a lot for people to do in Watchet, isn't there? Because now you've got this. So I think this is maybe where you would start.
yeah.
Because there's parking nearby, isn't there?
Yeah, there's parking actually all over town.
Yeah.
People worry about parking.
Yes,
there
they
needs to
do.
be more parking. It's very
But
true.
it's not bad, and you can, from Minehead, you can come on the train.
You can, and it's a lovely,
It is
lovely way
nice.
to come.
So that would be a good thing to
Yeah.
do. You could come on the train, you could spend the morning here, have morning coffee and cake, or lunch here, couldn't you? Quite happily.
Yeah, there's a delicious Middle Eastern Mediterranean restaurant, so you can have, which has quite a lot of vegetarian options actually, which is unusual around here. So that's
Yeah.
nice. It's sort of a different offer. But yes, you've got so much to do. So there's actually 3 galleries. And 11 artist studios. There's a geology lab and a print studio.
So if you're here with the small children, I'm trying to think of our guests. So we have some summer guests tend to come with, you know, little kids or young teenagers. So what would you do here with your kiddies?
Well, if you come in the holidays, there's a kids' family workshop every single day,
Right.
mostly in the afternoons, which tends to be messy play or some kind of making, mask making, or
Nice.
canvas making.
Do you have to book that, or can you just
No,
come
they
along?
are just drop-ins.
Right.
There's also messy play every Friday. So you can come if you've got toddlers between, I think it's 2 to 9. You can come in on a Friday and drop in and play with paints and all
Nice.
sorts. If you've got teenagers, there's something called Creatives Club on a Saturday morning, which you do have to book for. But that's slightly more in-depth, kind of almost like an art class.
Yeah.
But there'll always be exhibitions on that you can do, and we also quite often have evening events as well, which are kind of pop up. We do something called Kitchen Conversations, which
Nice.
a meal and a talk by a speaker, so they're pretty regular. We had a gig the other night. That was good fun. Gadarene.
Yes. Yeah, I know you have gigs because Phil, our rock god, has done a gig here, hasn't
Amazing.
he? Yeah.
Oh God, has he? I didn't know he'd done one
Yeah,
here.
he has definitely done a gig here. Yeah, he told us about that. Yeah, yeah, they're really popular, aren't they?
Really, I mean, they always sell out.
Yeah.
So it's wise to keep your eye on the website or the social
What's the
media.
website?
So the website's eastkeywatchit.co.uk, and we're on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter as East Key Watch It. So do keep an eye on, because there's things happening all the time.
Yeah, we will obviously put that on the podcast, but we'll also promote it on our own socials.
Yeah,
or on the soch,
soch.
as we say.
Down the social.
On the soch or on the gram.
And in terms of, I mean, because I'm always looking out for decent food, as you rightly said, there's a restaurant downstairs which is really fantastic,
it's
really
nice.
good coffee. I won't say the best coffee anywhere, but it's really good coffee because, you know, I'm a big
Don't
fan of
get in
Sam's
trouble.
Deli and Watch It, you see, so...
They are also good.
Yeah, and they do really good Scotch eggs, but that's another story. So really good downstairs, and I have to say, when I was here at Bank Holiday, it felt right Mediterranean. It was absolutely amazing.
The weather was good, wasn't
Beautiful weather, and there were people outside enjoying, you know, sitting outside, having a good time. Yeah, it's great. It was really, really good. So there's a different vibe here compared to almost anywhere else.
It really catches the sun in the afternoon.
It does,
It's a real
doesn't it?
sun trap. So you can come on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. We have evening platters, so you can come and have a beer in the evening and snack on some delicious crudités.
Oh, nice.
So that's nice.
There you go.
Yeah, to bring the boys down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Thursday evenings. And in terms of upcoming, and I'm going to get this name completely wrong. So the last exhibition that I saw was an audiovisual exhibition. Was it
Bedwyr Williams, yes.
That's
So
it.
he's a Welsh artist,
Yeah.
very, very funny. He's a stand-up comedian as well. So that exhibition was all about kind of aging. He based it on the sea wall, the hole in the sea wall, and imagined himself as an older artist who was kind of obsessed with aging and needing everything to age at exactly the same rate, just like a sea wall does, and being terrified and also slightly obsessed by holes. So it was fun.
Yeah.
Sounds
It's funny and slightly off
quite
the wall.
hard to imagine, but yeah, off the wall, yeah.
Yeah. So next we've got an exhibition called Better Than This, which is a climate change exhibition with 3 artists, all talking about the climate emergency and hope and how to feel hopeful. So I think that would be lovely. So that's I'm just looking.
How
at-
do you decide on the exhibitions?
Well, they are all planned 3 years in advance.
Wow.
So it's quite a big undertaking. So our cultural programming has 3 themes. So one is identity and belonging, one is community and place, and one is climate and change. So we look for artists globally that respond to these themes, because we're interested, that's what we're all about here. This is about recognising that community is the first line of defence in any shock, like COVID taught us
like
about.
we learned, if we didn't know already. Yeah.
And by feeling attached to the place that you live, I think it grounds you and it makes you feel secure, and that means that you can kind of be a better human in some ways, because you feel safe. It's a bit like attachment parenting, isn't it? So we're looking for artists that help us explore those ideas. And then of course climate is the biggest change that we're facing at the moment, and a lot of the art that we're seeing is kind of really doom and gloom and difficult, and it makes it, in my mind, that doesn't help. We need to find solutions and way forwards, and if you don't feel hopeful, then nothing good will happen. So we need to find artists that can offer hope, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have all been in that doom and gloom space a little bit. But it's really good to see that that Channel 4 are doing the art club with Grayson Perry, and that is moving in that direction at the moment, isn't it?
I love Grayson Perry.
Yeah, I mean, it was quite interesting watching that programme during the pandemic and seeing people in that dark space, and how now people are beginning to emerge from that dark
Yeah.
space, and the art's changing, and Grayson Perry was sort of imagining, has taken us on that journey, if you like. And
Well, it's like a grief journey, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it is.
You have to go into the dark place and then come out the other side.
And it's great to see that East Quay is there. I mean, I've got to ask, for the future of the collective, where do you go from here? I mean, obviously you've got this amazing schedule of work.
Down the pub.
Yeah, down the pub, for more
Always,
ideas.
always.
Yeah.
That's
So what next?
I mean, I have to say, I work with a bunch of women that are forever coming in on a Monday morning going, I've got a great idea. It's almost the opposite, trying to be
Yeah.
like, "No, guys, come on. But at the moment, we've got a really exciting project called Understory, which is about mapping connections between people and organisations. So we've got, we've put it together with a gaming company called Free Ice Cream. So they've made a game actually where you can go into different places and help them map out all of their connections. And then the idea is that communities can, if you know your community and you know who's in it and you know who's working towards what, you can mobilise and you can get together and make great things happen and build more East Quays because
So it's a sort of ground up.
totally
So that's always my theory about all of these things is if you start small, you can do amazing things. If you try, a bit like the hope and the climate change, if you think I've got to stop the Amazon rainforest being cut down, you can't do that because it's too big. But if you think I need to find a way to reuse my tea bags and my coffee pods, you can do that, and then you can do a bit more and get other people to do it. But
totally.
I love that free ice cream.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm totally
Brilliant
biased,
idea.
but I think community is the answer to everything. Like, we just need good relationships, and we need to know each other, and we need to work together, and that is the answer.
And I think COVID may have given us the bit of hope that we have rediscovered the importance of community, because I think it was being lost. I suspect people have been saying this for hundreds of years,
Yeah.
but I think it was being lost. And I think
I
in
agree.
cities certainly it came, that feeling came back.
And I think we did, there was an awful lot going on in communities all over West Somerset and Exmoor during the pandemic. I think we're beset by issues here, as we know, in terms of poor road transport, no public transport and the like. So that,
lots
in
of
some
things.
ways, on one side of the barometer, it sort of forces us to be better communities. But on the other hand, it means that we lose a lot of people who just can't live here anymore, and they go to the big cities and they make their fortune in London and Birmingham and the like. And I think that you were mentioning earlier on about community outreach, so being part of a community, is that the sort of thing you do with schools and other?
Yeah, exactly. So we have a kind of anti-classroom here called the Creator Space, which kids in local schools designed with the architects. So they said so the question was, how do you feel the most creative in what kind of space? And the answer was different ways of sitting. So they didn't want to sit at a desk and a table. So they've got these big balls, so you can sit on a ball, or a kind of landscape that you can climb on and kneel on and lie on. And sometimes they hide underneath it. And then lighting, of course, different lighting for different moods. So schools come to the Creator Space and do different kind of art workshops, and Kat, our education officer, and she leads a whole program of educational activities in there. And kids, if we can give kids those kind of opportunities, then I think the whole point of East Quay is about helping people to feel more creative, to find solutions to the big problems that we've got today, and we need to nurture that in our young people.
Yeah, it does. It does that to me. This space does something to me. It's something that it really triggers something. It's, let's say, very peaceful, but at the same time, you feel part of a creative community, which, as Lucy and I were saying earlier on, is sadly lacking in this part of the world. So you're doing an amazing job, and it's been really good to talk with you today.
I really hope people are going to come and experience it. Our guests will come, and they'll come at different times of the day. They'll come with the kids, they'll come in the evening and do the sharing platter, and also they'll just sort of wander into Watch It. I think Watch It is a place to explore.
Totally.
It's an interesting town. We've talked about it before. I think it's a great place to come and try, and I think the coming on the railway is a good idea. You definitely can park, but in the school holidays, you know, it can get busy. There's not a lot of parking here, so
Yeah.
railway is a good option.
Railway is great, and there are buses, even though
Yes.
they're not very good buses. There are
Yeah,
buses.
there
Yeah,
are
there are.
buses,
The
yeah.
28 runs relatively frequently.
Yeah.
And there's a lovely visitor centre.
Yeah.
And we've got
Yeah.
2 beaches, which
Yeah.
you can explore.
Beaches.
Yeah, West Street
Nice
Beach is my
museum.
favourite. Bring your cosy and your towel and not
Yeah.
pop down to West Street
Yeah,
Beach.
I mean, it's definitely come for the day,
Yeah.
I would say.
Yeah.
Come for the day, check the timetable, come on the railway, then you've done 2 things in one day. And you can spend quite a lot of time here, I think, just being and, you know, experiencing some lovely art.
I mean, I'm not sure on the last count, but the last time I heard we had 7 pubs in Watchet. So you can,
Yes.
you know, you can definitely explore all 7.
And come up with lots of creative ideas.
exactly.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And I will just touch on that one last thing, because I was looking at your jobs page the other day, and I was seeing, you know, there's always job opportunities popping up here, and there is that theme that runs through it, you know, that you are part of a bigger thing rather than just working in the kitchen or just working in the shop or whatever, which is really nice. For our local listeners, and you know that you've always got jobs popping up. Feel
We
free
do,
to join.
especially as we move into the summer season. So we are going to be looking for part-time staff in the kitchen and in the shop. So yes, do have a look on the Onion Collective jobs page, and also on our social media. And we keep posting, and also any chefs out there. We're also always looking for
Yeah,
chefs.
okay, chefs.
Chefs, yeah. If I was a chef recruitment agency,
Everybody is, and we're really lucky with Richard. Our head chef is absolutely phenomenal. He used to run a restaurant in Taunton called Annie's. So he's a superstar, but he does need some time off sometimes, which it's hard to give him at the moment.
Okay.
yeah.
But we've got we've got a wonderful team, but the more the merrier.
Yeah.
Great.
Well, yeah, so have a look at the jobs page if you're listening to this locally and you fancy a bit of a change, because it is a great environment in which to work. So, Georgie, thank you very much for your time today. I'll let you get back to creativity. And Lucy, thanks for
Thank you.
joining.
No, it's been great. Thank you very much. Really enjoyed it.